Rev up your engines! King Kang says, Scotty, why is my Mercedes reliable? I've had it for more than 2 years and it hasn't broken. It's a GL450 with natural aspirated V8 and Austrian transmission. I love it. All right, well, 2 years isn't much of a test. Now, the Austrian transmissions are good and so are the V8 engines, natural aspirated. The problem with Mercedes is they get so much technology in their cars. When they age, they cost a fortune to fix. They didn't used to be that way. They used to be mechanical, solid, reliable. Now, you've only been driving it for 2 years. I don't know how many miles you've been putting on it either. Eventually, the problem with a modern Mercedes, and that's an '07, it's still modern enough, is when all that computer stuff starts to break down. Whew, it's very hard to fix and very expensive to fix at the same time. Realize a modern fancy Mercedes can have over 100 separate computer modules. You can imagine the mess trying to figure out when they start to break down. It's like pulling your hair out, let me tell you. You don't want to own one when the electronics start to go out. Randy Ramirez says, I got an '06 Chrysler PT Cruiser I stopped driving 3 years ago because it was overheating. I have it in the backyard and used it to store things in. Have you ever seen someone using a junk car to store stuff in? Oh, you're not kidding. I've seen lots of people that do that. Some have cats live in them. Some have dogs living in them. Some people live in them. Yeah, those PT Cruisers were junk. I mean, when they first came out, everyone thought, oh, they're so cute. They're so great. Yeah, but they're all made in Pueblo, Mexico. The bastion of crap quality. They were terribly made vehicles. And they sold them to people because they looked cute. But in reality, they were piles of junk. And you don't want one. You really don't want one. Brandon Sparks says, Scotty, my math is reading high at idle. Will that make the engine run rich? Well, if it's reading high, that you're getting more air than you actually are, like if it says you're getting 25 grams a second air going in, yeah, then the computer's going to give it extra fuel and it'll run too rich. But it depends on how high it's reading. And if it's only doing it at idle and not at regular speeds, doesn't necessarily mean it's the math sensor. You could have a vacuum leak somewhere. You could have another problem that makes that reading go higher. And then you get confused thinking, well, it's the sensor. It isn't always the sensor. You have to analyze them at all readings, not just at an idle reading. 03YCT19 says, a 3-cylinder Fiat versus a 4-cylinder Suzuki. Well, the Suzuki by far. Fiats are bad enough. 3-cylinders even worse. Suzuki's made decent engines for a while, 4 cylinders. The problem with Suzukis are they never really made it big in the United States except the motorcycle side of Suzuki that makes motorcycles. The car Suzukis they pulled out ages ago, and they used to sell those little Suzuki sidekicks, the little Jeepy things, and they were okay for a cheap little Jeep, but they weren't the greatest vehicles in the world either. So they make decent engines. They always did make good engines. It was the rest of the vehicles. The Suzukis they sold in the United States that were cars, their automatic transmissions were horrid. Their standards were good, but their automatics were horrid, and that's like 95% of Americans drive automatics, so that was the end of Suzuki. They couldn't make it in the American market because of that. Jacob Strapoli, what minivan do you recommend for a family? Get a Toyota Sienna. They're the best vans in the world, hands down. The Hondas, they've had too many transmission and engine problems to buy, and I wouldn't even think about buying an American one. They're junk. The Siennas can run forever. I've seen them with 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles on it. Both of my sons have one. My youngest son has a normal one with a 6-cylinder engine, and my older son last year bought a 4-cylinder hybrid that gets like 37 miles a gallon. You get 37 miles a gallon in a van, that's phenomenal gas mileage. And they both last a long time. Agent 666 says, can you use propane as an AC refrigerant? It will work, but I don't advise doing it. It's extremely flammable. You get a leak in the AC system, somebody smoking a cigarette, woof. Up in flames you go. You don't want to use flammable stuff in your AC system. That's why I'm really death against the new refrigerant they use at R1234YF that replaced the R134A. R134A is pretty much non-flammable. The R1234YF, that stuff is flammable. Why they went from a non-flammable to a flammable, who knows? The government had something to do with it, so that kind of explains it. They're a bunch of idiots that don't understand anything. You don't want to use propane. It would work. Yes, it would. But you get a leak, woof. Up in the air you go. You do not want to put it in your vehicle. He says, hi, Scotty, assuming you had unlimited money for repairs, what money pit car would you like to drive around in? I would say a Jaguar sports car, because they look cool. And I'd want one of the old ones, the old E-types, you know, the really cool-looking one that look kind of like Bodie's, the one Steve McQueen had. I saw one in California last time I was in La La Land, the land of everybody was trying to put one over on somebody else. The images, everything. And it was beautiful. It was green, had the racing seats in it. I mean, they are beautiful cars. They're fun to drive. They make a nice sound. That straight six engine with straight pipes makes a nice loud sound. That's what I'd get. But I'm not going to because I'm too cheap. Josh Multitool says, how to fix a ticking sound on lifters. Replace them. You got to take the engine apart, got to replace them. Pray the cam isn't worn because the cam pushes the lifters. And if the cam is worn, it will wear the lifters. They'll make noise. You put new lifters in, soon after, they'll start making noise again because the cams are worn out. You might want to try this. Sometimes they get clogged up. Get yourself a good engine flush. And the auto parts store can sell it. Follow the directions. Usually says pour the bottle in and let it idle for 10, 15 minutes, whatever. Then change the oil and filter and get going. Sometimes the little pinholes that are in those things, they're little tiny pinholes that the oil goes through. They'll get clogged up and they'll clack. It's worth trying because other than that, you got to take the engine apart and replace them. That gets expensive, and like I said, even then, you got to pray. Clue says, Scotty, can I just replace the cylinder head instead of the engine for a blown head gasket overheating my Chevy Silverado? Well, you can do whatever you want, but here's the problem. If you do a half-assed repair, it'll probably come and bite you in the rear end. If you got a lot of mileage on a car, guy that was cheap and he did it once. He said, just fix the head and the head gasket. I don't want to work on the bottom of the engine, the pistons, right? Put a new head on, head gasket, the engine's smoking like mad. So my engine's smoking, what happens? You didn't want to replace the piston rings. You now have a new tight head and head gasket, straining the bottom of the engine, and now it's smoking more because the piston rings are worn. It's not worth doing. If you're going to rebuild an engine, do the whole thing. If you're not, don't even bother. You're just putting a Band-Aid on a very expensive thing that it's probably not going to last that long. You're going to rebuild an engine with high mileage, do the whole thing, or get another engine from a factory that rebuilds them, or get a brand new one if you can. Don't do half-assed engine repairs. It's not worth it. Guy paid Tesla for solar panels on his house. 4 years later, he can't even use the thing. Now, the guy's in Hawaii, and he had it all set up, and of course, he's sitting on his roof rotting. You know, they only have a limited lifespan. A lot of sun in Hawaii. It beats them up over time. Now, this guy spent over $50,000 in roof repairs, installation costs, and lawyer fees. In his case, he can't get a proper permit. As he says, there's no proper permit, I can't turn it on. It just sits on my roof, and I feel mental anguish every time I come home and look up. Learn from this guy, don't waste your money on that crap. Now, this guy's been waiting. This guy's been waiting since October 2019. It's 2022 now, right? He needs paperwork from Tesla so the government can let him turn it on. And Tesla told the guy, we're working on the paperwork. Talk about corporate insanity. But then this March, he couldn't communicate to Tesla anymore because all his customer service complaints were routed to a call center. Just passing the buck. They got your money, baby. They don't care what happens after that. And here's the BS that Hawaiian guys gave them. We stand by our member companies. They adhere to a code of ethics, says Rocky Mold, executive director of the Hawaii Solar Energy Association. We enforce that code of ethics for our members, and part of that is being forthright, honest, and transparent in all dealings with customers. Doublespeak, doublespeak, doublespeak. You're dealing with Tesla. You're dealing with Hawaiian politicians. You're dealing with energy solution companies that all they want is your money. I mean, some of the biggest con artists in the world are going to come out of the woodwork now. I've seen it in the past, and I'm sure it's going to come out now. Guys around here in Old Rhode Island trying to sell me solar panels for the house. You look at the money it costs. I had a guy come here last year, if you remember. He had a Volkswagen that he ran on French fry oil. He's a nice guy. And he's a very energy green type guy, right? And he had a bunch of solar panels. He says, I'm going to try to sell them to somebody. He said, somebody gave them to me. He said, they're useless. You can't use them. In Rhode Island, there's not enough sun. There's not enough anything for running that stuff. And they cost so much money to hook up on your roof, he said, just forget it. And this is a green guy telling me. Of course, the salesman, I'd say, well, what do you do when you get rid of them? Well, we don't handle that. Well, what if there's a problem? Well, we don't handle that. We just put them on a roof and charge you a bunch of money. So you might think twice before you try that scam where you'll be like this guy wondering what happened to my money. And realize it's not cheap. Even in Tennessee, I know a guy who did it out in the country. He hooked up his log cabin to the solar thing. It cost him $55,000, and that was his own labor. That was just all the batteries, the wiring, the solar panels that he put on the roof. You're going to spend a fortune, and of course the lifespan of the solar panels is only so many years. The lifespan of the batteries is only so many years. Then you have to pay the $55,000 again, and by then it's going to be even more because they get more expensive. So think twice before you try something like that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.